Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'm going to help you guys learn how to avoid conflict, especially on comment sections on YouTube videos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share something I've shared with you guys before. It's one of my favorite conversations to have. It has to do with this personality test that's based on quantum physics. Everything is vibrating energy. Our consciousness is nothing but a form of radiation, and different personalities transform that energy slightly differently. Now, what I'm going to try to do is, and I haven't even thought this out, so I'm going to kind of play with this on the top of my head. I've done this before and it worked out okay, and I'm going to see if I can get away with it today. Again, I thought of this just yesterday to use as an analogy, but I hadn't thought it out, and here it goes. Imagine, if you will, that you are one of 6,000 people in an auditorium, and you're hearing 4 speakers give the same presentation. It's a TED conference, 20-minute presentation. Every presentation, it's a PowerPoint presentation. It's the same slide. It's the same exact words verbatim. And then all 6,000 people know everything about the presentation because it's really a simple presentation. It's not complicated, and everyone knows the truth. There's no conflict between, oh, your belief system is different. No, we all believe the same thing. And we're going to hear the same story by 4 different people, but they have 4 different personalities. Now, what I want you guys to do, you're in the audience, and as you hear each version, I want you to rate each one of them, the ones you like the best. 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1's the best, 2's the second, 3rd is the next, and then 4th is the least. Now, what we're going to have here, when we do this, is about 1,000 people are going to pick 1 and 2. About 1,000 people are going to pick 3 and 4. 1,000 people are going to pick 2 and 3. 1,000 people are going to pick 1 and 4. 1,000 people are going to pick 1 and 3. 1,000 people are going to pick 2 and 4. Now what we got is 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how I always look. I should reverse that for you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's clockwise, okay? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are polar opposites. Conflict. What else we got? We got the 2 and the 3 and the 1 and the 4. Opposites. The first 2 I gave, 1 and 2, extrovert, 3 and 4, introvert. Now we got the 2, 3, divergent, 1, 4, convergent. Opposites, conflict. It's like, is your energy going through a convex lens or a concave lens? Is your light coming out of a ball, going out and spreading out divergently? Or is your light going into a ball and nearly focusing everything into one point? Opposites, conflict, conflict. 2 more opposites. We've got the 1 and the 3 and the 2 and the 4. Opposites. Individualist, conformist. Opposites. So how do you avoid conflict? You have to understand people have different rules. Now let's compare this to some comments I get recently, or I get all the time. John, could you speak a little slower? John, could you speak a little faster? Well, the ones, everything with a 1 in it wants you to speak fast. You're not speaking fast enough. Come on, talk faster. I'm in a hurry. I do things quickly. Talk, 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 talk. But if you're down here at number 4, you do things slowly and carefully. Could you talk a little slower? So everybody is asking me to be, would you please be more red? Would you please be more green? Would you do this or do that? Definition of failure is to please everybody. You know what? I try to do that. I've even thought about writing a book and have it based on these 4 main personality traits and have the book in 4 main sections. And a lot of people, you know, whatever color you're the lowest in, whatever trait you're the lowest in, and whatever the 4s are, the least of all the presentations you like, you might not even read that part of the book, and you might not need to. And what you can do is just go to the parts of the book that appeal to you. The problem here is everyone needs to know the version that the 3s would tell, because they give the consequences. They understand why we need to do it. And no matter what your personality is, you have to be motivated to apply what you know, because knowledge is worthless unless we apply it. And then when we want to share it, we're going to have conflicts. And what you're going to find is you're going to have conflict when you have people that are polar opposites. So there's 3 pairs of polar opposites. There's 3 sources of conflict right there. And you might even say there's a conflict between the 1s and the 3s, the reds and the blues, physical energy and mental energy. and opposites attract. So a lot of marriages, according to James Nolan, who did this personality test, 80% of first marriages marry opposites. Second marriage, 80% of marriages marry similars. Because if you don't understand where the other person is coming from, it can drive you crazy. Doesn't mean it can't work, and many times it's the best way to have things work. For example, you might not have any green 4, which are people who can save money. And you might be attracted to someone with that feature because now you've got security. You didn't have it before, but this guy, that's all they think about. So it helps to understand different personalities, especially if you're going to live with them. It only makes sense to me. There's a reason why 80% of the marriages failed and then they married someone more like themselves, because you want to go through the world perceiving the world the same way as the other person. I've used this analogy before, and so does Nolan, about the 6 blind men from India. Remember, if you're a blind man and you're feeling the elephant, you got 6 different choices. You either think it's a tree when you grab its leg, or a fan when you grab its ear, or a spear when you grab its tusk, or a snake when you grab its trunk, or a wall when you touch its side, or a rope when you grab its tail. So in every case, they're all right describing the elephant, but they're all wrong because they don't understand the other one's perspective. So a lot of conflict in life comes when someone else isn't obeying your rules. John, you need to be more friendly. If you're a real high yellow person, if you got a whole lot of 2, that's what's important to you. 1s or red do things quickly. They talk. They act. Yellows talk. They do things friendly. The blues think, they do things creatively. The greens analyze, they do things carefully. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, what usually happens in personalities is 2 of these traits are going to dominate. But we need 3 to complete it, because the 3rd highest trait will either strengthen or weaken the trait. So, if each person, out of those 6,000 people, if you look at those 4 numbers, you take the first 3 numbers and that's your personality. Take the 2 first numbers, and now that determines whether or not you're a 1, 2 extrovert, acting and talking, or a 3, 4 introvert, thinking and analyzing, or you're a 1, 4 convergent personality, acting and analyzing, or 2, 3 talking and thinking. The blue yellows, the 2, 3s are the best teachers. Why? Because they love knowledge and they love to share it. I'm a 2, 3. I'm a blue yellow person. That's no surprise, that's what I've become as a teacher. I like doing it, so that makes my performance better. Remember, performance equals willingness times ableness. Ability is a big piece of the puzzle, but if you don't like doing what you're doing, you're not going to do as good a job, because that's what multiplies it. So the yellow blues make the best teachers. And every trait is designed to work for a different type of job. And when you want to make sure your life doesn't have conflict, if you're outside a message board or a comment section, you want to make sure that you're doing work that suits your personality. And then if you got a boss and he's high red and you're high blue, you're not going to like to be told what to do. So you want to get away from that type of environment if you really want to be happy, if you want to avoid conflict in your life that way. But then in the comment section, it goes way beyond personality, doesn't it? We'll never understand ourselves unless we reduce the human language to 7 words. Gabriel Gahan. A lot to be said for that. A lot of people hear you say something, they don't know what you mean. A lot of definitions for different words. And a lot of people assume they know what definition you're using. Right and wrong is a classic example. There's dozens of definitions for those, and yet people say, oh, you're judging people. I'm not judging anybody when I put a wrong way sign up on a freeway, am I? There's a right way to live and a wrong way to live. Oh, John, you're being judgmental. You're not obeying my rules. You're not friendly. The whole purpose of this video, obviously, is to try to make my YouTube channel a friendly place to come. And most of you guys are doing a bang-up job. You really are. I really appreciate helping each other out. I'm getting positive feedbacks all over the place. So please keep doing what you're doing. I also appreciate all your feedback, even if it's misguided or short-sighted or whatever. Even if you're, again, I can understand why someone would say, John, would you please speak slower? Especially if you don't understand English, because that makes it even more difficult. But I also understand that if you heard a presentation and you heard the red speak and the green speak, Some are going, that damn red speaks too fast. That damn green speaks too low, slow. So, what's going on? You're not obeying my rules. You gotta talk fast. I'm a red person. I'm in a hurry. You gotta do things quickly. Ready, fire, aim. But no, slow. Go slower. Be more careful. So, again, a lot of conflict occurs when we simply are not obeying other people's rules. The problem here is that most people don't know each other's rules. So when Socrates said, know thyself, he was spot on. If you want to be healthy, my friends, you got to satisfy all your needs. One of those needs is not only to understand yourself better, but to understand others better. To be more tolerant for those who are in pain. But don't forget, about 1 to 4% of the population are psychopaths. And if you study them like I have, you can spot them a mile away. If you stop eating cooked food, you get a gut feeling immediately. I can spot a psychopath immediately. There's no question in my mind. When I call someone a psychopath, I know what I'm doing. I'm helping you guys by identifying someone that you don't know is a psychopath. Now remember, there are 6 ways or 6 types of psychopaths. And if you don't know that, what you need to do is to check out this documentary, Defense Against a Psychopath. Best documentary I've ever seen. I transcribed every word of it, not a wasted word. It explains everything in detail. It helps you understand what we're up against. Remember, we're on the hero's journey. You have to understand the obstacles. You don't want to focus too much attention on them, but you have to identify them, be aware of them. Know that if they're controlled opposition, there's things we can use from them, but we got to make sure we don't get tricked and sucked into their negativity, which is what they want. Psychopaths swim in chaos. That's how it's easy to identify. Psychopaths are predictable if you know what to look for. And if you haven't studied the Con Artist Handbook, if you haven't studied the Hasbara Handbook, if you don't know anything about the Psychopath Questionnaire, if you don't know anything of that, then you can't identify them, and you should be thrilled to death that I'm over here screaming, psychopath, psychopath, psychopath. I know. I remember when we were infiltrated here in Houston on a vegan radio show. COINTELPRO infiltrated our radio station. And I remember when I first met this woman, my spidey sense went off the wall. And I didn't even know what controlled opposition was back then, or COINTELPRO. But I knew, I had a gut feeling. I can sense evil. And I'm not going to put up with it. Now, I'll put up with a lot of evil. But when you attack the truth, I'm going to defend the truth. Everybody who slams raw food, I'm going to come back in its defense. Because there's nothing more important for us to understand. That cooking our food is the fall of mankind. Anyone that promotes it in any way, shape, or form, whether they know or not, are evil. Remember, no man is clever enough to know all the evil they do. But a lot of them do. And they get off to it. And you can sense it. You know what is going on in their mind. Once you study these sick people, they're extremely predictable because they have no empathy. You just got to pay attention to them. In fact, I could be actually hired as a supervisor for all the internet shills and psychopaths on the planet. I can evaluate people on message boards and say, good job, you're doing your job great. If you're not already on board, we need to hire you and sign you up. You got all the qualifications. If you know what to look for, they're predictable. And remember, what they've done is they've tricked us into thinking things that aren't true. They tricked us into thinking the dark side of our behavior is part of our DNA, it's outside of our control. They tricked us into thinking that there's good in everybody. Oh, John, why can't you be more loving to some of these people? Yes, I understand that a lot of people come into our lives that are easy to love, right? They're all over, they're very plentiful. And yet we have those that are very difficult to love, but they're worthy of our love. Some aren't. And that's a sad reality, and I'm not saying stoop down to their level, but you have to be aware of the obstacles on the hero's journey. Because this message would have gotten out a long time ago if it wasn't for these obstacles. Again, revolution only takes place by bringing forth what we want. You don't want to put too much energy into those obstacles. But you don't bury your head in the sand and ignore that they exist, especially if they're out there in our community as controlled opposition. Now, I'm going to get you guys to think a little bit. Who do you think is controlled opposition in the medical industry, and the diet industry, alternative health industry. That's visible, and you see them all over the place. Who could it be? Who are they? Controlled opposition will tell you 100 things that are true just to get you to believe in the one lie that's crucial to them. And these guys that control everything, they don't care what we know, it's what we do with what we know. So part of controlled opposition is to create chaos, create conflict and argument within us. Who's doing that? Who's stirring up conflict? You see, it's obvious. When you know what to look for, my friends, it's easy to spot the infiltrators, the instigators, the ones that are creating chaos. Now, I know a lot of us are hurting, and not everyone you see is a psychopath. They're just in pain, they're crying for help. And the only way to really be able to differentiate between these two is you gotta bump up your biophotons. Again, I feel sick to my stomach when I see a psychopath. I feel it in my gut immediately. I can feel it through the transmissions, and when they're typing, I can feel it and sense it. And I don't get that with everyone. I can tell a difference when someone's just a useful idiot and they don't know any better. And remember this, these internet shills cannot exist without the useful idiots. So what they do is they suck up to all the friendly posters, and then they come to the defense of these people. Now, what I'm going to do and continue to do is delete comments that I feel are by useful idiots or internet shills. If I feel a psychopath presence, you probably will be banned. Or if you are a useful idiot and you keep doing it over and over and over, and I have to keep going back and deleting your post, you'll be banned. Otherwise, if your post is deleted and you can still post, then you've been put on my list. And I'm going to keep an eye on you and see if that's just a fluke and you only do it every now and then, or if this is going to be a pattern that I keep seeing over and over. Because maybe you're not just a useful idiot, you're actually an internet shill. Now, it's important to always keep things in perspective. Thank you. We always have to understand that there's upstream and downstream. The most important thing we can do is we got to go upstream and get the knowledge we're missing. We got to apply it so we can have that brand new reference. That's number one. There's a lot of things we have to do downstream, and one of them is to take back control of the money. Now, I'm going to respond to a commenter who's posted several times, no, we got to change the monetary system, change the monetary system. Then you did a real nice recap of what I say, but then you said something you know I don't say. And that is, fixing the monetary system isn't an upstream solution. That's downstream. That's a downstream solution. It's one of the most important things we got to do downstream, but it's not upstream. It's not getting reconnected. So if we're not getting reconnected, everything's a distraction. In fact, I finally figured out the best way to debate everybody from here on out. Whenever I'm in a debate with somebody, I only have one answer to every question. You better, I hope you ask the right question, because you're always going to get the same answer. It's biophotons. If you're asking me the wrong question, I'm not going to entertain your wrong question. There's only one question we need to ask and one answer. What is the fall of mankind? How do we correct it? We correct it by bumping up our biophotons. There's only one answer, my friends. So this is what you do if you're ever in a situation where you're going to debate somebody, and they're going to say, what about the protein? What about this? What about this? Go biophotons, biophotons, biophotons. Get the biophotons, stop cooking your food. Everything else is a no-brainer except for the damage you've done. That does get more complicated. Now, there's something else I was thinking on the way on my bike ride today that I was going to suggest to you guys, and that is what I've seen throughout this last year or so, now that I'm uploading a lot of videos, is a lot of you guys do a bang-up job. I love it when you guys recap what I think and what I said, and you condense it down in your own little way, maybe a paragraph. And what I'd like to request right now, maybe I should start a whole new video on this, because maybe a lot of y'all haven't watched to the end of this yet. But what I'd like for you guys to do is, for those who've watched a lot of my videos, and I know I've got like 460 some now videos or so, but for those who've watched the majority of my videos, or enough of them, and it doesn't take long because I repeat myself so much, right? What I'd like for you guys to do is give me your version of my version in as little, in as few words as you can, or as explicitly as you want to. Again, I've had a lot of people do that already, and I need to go back through and perhaps find those and use them as examples and post those. If I have time, I'll do that. But I know a lot of you already know what I'm talking about because a lot of you already done that. You know, you talk about the 5 mistakes. You know, I've got like 12 main stories I tell. I'll put a link down to Rose's 12 stories. That will give you a clue as to what to look for. But I would love to get you guys' version of summarizing how I say things. And when you can do that and be able to put it down, then that's what you can use to help spread this message. You see where I'm going with this, guys? Think about the things I say over and over and over. The body's nothing but a bunch of cells and 2 fluids. That's, you know, I got that from Robert Morris, and he said it perfectly. And when you find one way to say it perfectly, no one should say it anything different than that ever. Ever. That's why I say it and I use it over and over and over. You should use it too. It's the best way of explaining the whole simplicity of everything. But there's a whole lot more to it. Remember, I identified 281 pieces. So you guys grab as many of those pieces as you can and put them together for me, if you want to. I think it'd be a great exercise if you're really on the hero's journey and you want to figure out how to get this message out. You want to look at the stories that I tell and then figure out which ones you like the best that you can use. And then here's the trick. This is the trick right here. For everybody out there on the hero's journey that wants to share this message one-on-one with other people, the way you make it successful is you personalize it. You put your own version on it. My version, I had a 20-pound cesspool. Took me 90 days to poop it out of me. Crawled out of a rut I didn't know I was in. I personalized my whole story based on what happened to me. And that's what makes a good story. That's the trick, and that's the trick right there to telling a good story, a convincing story, because now you have your own personal part of it. You're coming from the heart, because this is what happened to you, and this is what a lot of people do anyway, right? When people get frustrated with the medical system and realize they don't have the answer, and then they find fasting or juice fasting and a raw vegan diet, and their problems go away. They go out and they say, look, I had breast cancer, I had this, I had this, I had this. No more diabetes, no more of that. So this is how you guys personalize it. And when you guys can finally personalize a story like that and summarize all of my stories, everyone on this planet will be in a treat.